Welcome, everyone, to the Apoco-Larry podcast. I'm Steve, and he is...
Oh, Lawrence. I'm Lawrence today.
Like a middle level greeting.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
personable yet formal at the same time.
Yeah, because I didn't say Larry.
Yeah.
I said Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it has a pleasing roll off the tongue, right? Lawrence, right?
It's a nice name.
Yeah.
It's a nice
Yeah,
name.
yeah, yeah. Your parents
Or
did well.
Larry sounds like a dumb person somehow.
No.
Like Larry the Cable Guy. Isn't it Larry the Cable Guy?
It is
Oh,
Larry
yeah,
the
that's the
Cable.
comedian.
Yeah,
Larry
it
the
is Larry
Cable
the Cable Guy. Yeah.
Who's actually very intelligent.
He's so smart.
Because you got to be intelligent to roll. You got to be quick to roll with those jokes.
True.
Yeah.
True. Now we're going to talk about people that aren't so smart, and that's the Israelites.
Yeah, again, again, and I thought Gideon really messed up, but it sounds like it was a mild mess up on Gideon's part, and then a bigger mess up on everybody else. Yeah, I actually thought Gideon actually sinned, but it doesn't sound it doesn't sound like a full out sin on Gideon's part.
Yeah.
It sounds more like just a dumb move.
Yeah.
So
well,
that's what we're going to get into.
Okay. Here we are.
He starts off very intelligently.
Oh yeah, like he's got this. He's come through this amazing event, and just anyway. Chapter 8 of Judges, for those of you playing the home edition. We're going to start at verse 1 because that makes the most sense.
Yeah, and do you like the way we're doing it, where you just read and I just cut in all the time?
I love it. I tell everyone on the street, I love it when I get to read.
And I get to cut in. Okay, stop reading now.
and people really comment on how well I pronounce things all the time.
Do you know what? There's a site, and I forgot to find out who it was, but I was looking up a word, a thing in this one, and there's a guy who comes on, and he's Jewish, I think.
Yeah.
And he tells you how to pronounce all these different things.
Well, that's great for him. I'm so happy
yeah. Good for you.
I could not be more pleased with his choices in life. All right, folks. Chapter 8, verse 1. Now the Ephraimites asked Gideon, "Why have you treated us like this?" Remember, he went out and they called him out later. "Why didn't you call us when you went to fight Midian?" And they challenged him vigorously. But he answered them, "What have I accomplished compared to you? Aren't the gleanings of Ephraim's grapes better than the full grape harvest of Ebenezer? God gave Oreb and Zeb, the Midianite leaders, into your hands. What was I able to do compared to you?" At this, their resentment against him subsided.
So this piece is actually him being a very, very intelligent political leader.
Mm-hmm.
So the Ephraimites, who he did tell about these guys after they did the first battle, he told the Ephraimites, and they went and got a hold of Oreb and Zeb, which were two of the princes of Midian, right, of the Midianites, and they killed them in the last chapter. You remember they took them and killed them both, but now they're mad at Gideon that they didn't get in on it sooner. But that's when he says Ephraim's grapes are better than the gleanings of their grapes are better than the full grapes of Abiezer.
Yeah.
And Abiezer is where Gideon is from.
Right.
So that's why it makes sense.
I get
right?
you now.
And he says your cast-offs, or the stuff you leave behind, is better than what I have done in my thing. So he's actually given them a great compliment and calmed them down. Kind of a nice thing to remember if you're a leader, like, kind of go away from the insult and then push the argument somewhere else if you can.
Yeah. I was just thinking of another example where someone didn't do that, and I thought of both Paul and Stephen, who just inflamed the crowd rather than calm it down. Anyway,
Stephen had him, and then he turned around and just brutally insulted them. Yeah.
Slapped them with the back of his hand. Verse 4. Gideon and his 300 men, exhausted yet keeping up the pursuit, came to the Jordan and crossed it. He said to the men of Succoth, "Give my troops some bread. They are worn out, and I am still pursuing Zebah and Zemanah," something like that, "the kings of Midian." But the officials of Succoth said, Do you already have the hands of Zebah and Zemanah in your possession? Why should we give bread to your troops? Then Gideon replied, just for that, when the Lord has given these two kings into my hand, I didn't say their names, I will tear your flesh with desert thorns and briars.
And you can keep reading because it's the same thing again.
From there he went up to Peniel and made the same request of them, but they answered them as the men of Succoth had said. So he said to the men of Peniel, when I return in triumph, I will tear down this tower.
Yeah. So these two places, Peniel, and what was the other one again? Succoth. Both of these places are cities in Gad.
Hmm.
So these are people from the tribe of Gad, and so he's coming through with his 300, and other men as well, and he says, could you feed these guys? At least feed my 300. And they go, no, forget it. We're not doing it. You did nothing, and you have nothing to show for it. And he says, okay, but when I come back, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
You're in a lot of trouble. And then they just move on. So where they ate and what they ate, we don't know. But these guys were both very nasty to their fellow Israelite.
Yeah. I just love that.
Yeah.
Now Zeba and Zemuna, or Zemuna, I don't know, were in Karkor, with a force of about 15,000 men, all that were left of the armies of the eastern peoples. 120,000 swordsmen had fallen. Just a
Yeah.
small number.
So that a lot of guys died, eh? Like
Yeah.
120,000. Yeah.
Oof.
So that
Gideon,
was his 300 in the beginning,
yeah.
and a lot of people died there. And then they were running out, and he asked everybody to join him, and they were killing them. So they had killed about 120,000.
Oh, wow. Gideon went up by the route of the nomads east of Nobah and Jogabah, close enough, and attacked the unsuspecting army. Zeba and Zemuna, the two kings of Midian, fled, but he pursued them and captured them, routing their entire army. 300 guys is what he started with, folks. Gideon, son of Joash, then returned from the battle at the pass by the pass of Heres. He caught a young man of Succoth and questioned him, and the young man wrote down for him the names of the 77 officials of Succoth, the elders of the town. Gideon came and said to the men of Succoth, here are Zeba and Zemuna, about whom you taunted me by saying, do you already have the hands of Zeba and Zemuna in your possession? Why should we give bread to your exhausted men? He took the elders of the town and taught the men of Succoth a lesson by punishing them with desert thorns and briars.
Yeah. So what they're saying is they probably made a whip out of thorns and briars and took these 70 guys and whipped them in front of everybody.
And just so you know, he closed the deal, right? Verse 17 says, he also pulled down the tower of Peniel and killed the men of the town.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. His own people. Yeah. So, when someone's coming through from God, help them out.
I mean,
if they had fed them, he would have come back and give them plunder.
Yeah.
The dummies.
It's such a fantastic story. It's fantastic. We're now at verse 18, folks. Then he asked Zeba and Zemuna, what kind of men did you kill at Tabor? Men like you, they answered, each one with the bearing of a prince. Gideon replied, those were my brothers, the sons of my mother, and as surely as the Lord lives, if you had spared their lives, I would not kill you. Turning to Jether, his oldest son, he said, kill them. But Jether did not draw his sword because he was only a boy and was afraid. Zeba and Zemuna said, come. I was going to say, come on. Come and do it yourself. As is the man, so is the strength. So Gideon stepped forward and killed them and took the ornaments off their camels' necks.
Yeah. So he captured the two kings, or two of the kings of Midian.
Yeah.
So they figured there were different groups within Midian, right? Like the Kenites could have been Midianites as well, and these were two of their kings. So he did catch them, and then his upset with them is that they killed his actual brothers. So it sounds like his father probably had more than one wife. Because he says, these are the brothers of my own mother. So they're not my stepbrothers and others, but they're the ones from my own mother. And for that, I can't let you live.
Yeah.
Yeah. And tough guys, eh?
Yeah.
Like he asked his son, I wonder how old his son was. Like 12 or 13, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I just throw out an age. We don't know. But it said he was too young, and it kind of freaked him out to have to kill these
Yeah.
two guys, like the mafia guys did with their
Yeah.
kids in the
Yeah.
movie. You know?
Yeah. Come
Yeah,
on. Come on, Dad. Do I have to cut their heads off? Yes, you
yeah.
have to cut their heads off.
You must learn the trade of the family. And so Gideon just steps forward with his sword, and he. So do you remember in the beginning he's terrified and crushing wheat in the
Yep.
in where they do grapes in
In
the
the wine
in the grape
press.
in the wine press, and he says, "Man, I'm scared of this." He's a different man now.
Yeah. Hoy,
You
is
know,
he ever?
yeah, yeah, totally a leader, totally a leader. Little rougher than the new Canadians would like us to be, but he was a man of his time,
Yeah. He was a
and
man.
this is what they did in his time. And so he
Wow.
kills those two guys, and away they go.
Mm. Okay, verse 22.
Yeah. Now this is the place where it says that he probably made a mistake,
Yep.
little bit too
A
much. Yeah.
little bit too much. The Israelites said to Gideon, "Rule over us, you, your son, and your grandson, because you have saved us from the hand of Midian." But Gideon told them, "I will not rule over you, nor will my son rule over you. The Lord will rule over you." So far, so good, right?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Actually, very good. Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, "I do have one request, that each of you give me an earring from your share of the plunder." It was a custom of the Ishmaelites to wear gold earrings. They answered, "We'll be glad to give them." So they spread out a garment, and each of them threw a ring from his plunder onto it. The weight of the gold rings he asked for came to 1,700 shekels, not counting the ornaments, the pendants, and the purple garments worn by the kings of Midian, or the chains that were on their camels' necks.
Yeah. So the earrings came out to, they say, about 43 pounds.
Wow. Okay. It's quite a bit of gold.
Unless one guy just wore really big earrings. I
Yeah,
don't.
that's right.
We're thinking that it's many 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 men. I don't know how many men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Verse 27. Gideon made the gold into an ephod, which he placed in Ophrah, in his town, or in Ophrah, his town. All of Israel prostituted themselves by worshiping it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and his family.
Yeah, and that's the mistake. So he doesn't take on kingship, which he could have done, and he says you gotta serve the Lord. But an ephod is actually a priestly garment,
Right.
and it's the front thing they wore.
Like a
Kind of looked like
like a
a
breastplate? Is that kind
like
of?
a yeah, like a breast thing. Like it would look like a bulletproof vest that you
Mm,
would put on,
yeah.
but with gold and stuff on it,
Yep.
and it wouldn't be bulletproof.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a thing that you put over your garment, and it suggests that it could suggest that you have a priestly place, and that's where they think that it's a snare to his family, and to himself as well. So he kept them serving the Lord. He did it right, but he just kind of pushed it a little bit too much because it said it was a snare to him. So
Yeah.
he was probably very proud of this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was too bad.
Yeah. Gideon.
But he doesn't get totally, like, he dies okay. Like, God doesn't judge him for this, it
Right.
seems.
Right.
It was just a dumb move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Verse 28. Thus Midian was subdued before the Israelites and did not raise its head again. During Gideon's lifetime, the land had peace for 40 years.
By the way,
Jerub-
40 years, we don't know if it's an actual 40 years. 40 years, the concept there is for a generation.
I get you. Now they flip back to his old name, right? It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Jerub,
Contended with Baal.
yeah, Jerubbaal, Baal, son of Joash, went back home to live. He had 70 sons of his own, for he had many wives. His concubine, who lived in Shechem, also bore him a son, whom he named Abimelech. Gideon's son, of Joash, died at a good old age and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah of the as yeah. No sooner, verse 33, no sooner had Gideon died than the Israelites again prostituted themselves to the Baals. They set up Baal Berith as their god and did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the hands of all their enemies on every side. They also failed to show any loyalty to the family of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, in spite of all the good things he had done for them.
Yeah, so see, they still treat Gideon well at the end of Gideon's life here.
Right.
And it did say that they prostituted themselves to this ephod thing, which was wrong. But then they go way further after he dies, and they again it says they prostituted themselves to the Baals, and they didn't show any loyalty to Gideon. And what they're saying with that not showing loyalty to Gideon is actually the next chapter, when Abimelech tries to take over, because he had these 70 sons, and Abimelech was the son of the one that was not his wife.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's yeah, good story about Gideon.
It's a,
Um,
it's a story of loved and lost and actually died.
and then death. Yeah, yeah. And a guy who was scared, but he was never poor,
No.
but he felt like he was poor.
Right.
Um, and because he had, remember, he took those servants with him. Was it
Yeah.
10 servants?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, grabbed 10 of his servants,
Yeah.
you know, and served God. He did the fleece. God answered the fleece. He went out to serve God, and God said, "If you're scared, go down and listen." He actually went down and listened because he was probably terrified, and found out how terrified they were, and then just followed God,
Yeah.
and then kind of screwed up a little bit, but aren't we? Don't we all mess up a little bit
Yes. Yes.
along the way?
But
Maybe if you're ever running a church and it starts going really well, keep this story in mind. You can really mess up if you start thinking, "Hey, I really am a great servant
I really
of
am. I
God."
really am all that in a bag of
Yeah,
chips, as they say.
yeah,
it's
and that's the story. Yeah,
it's such a great, like you said it. I'm fascinated by his response right after this massive victory. We want you to be king. And you'd think that most people would jump through that hoop. Of course, I'll be king and take all this power and this glory. Gideon smartly says, I don't want any of that. The Lord's your God. Am I stupid? How did I get here other than the Lord?
yeah,
Oh, by the way, could I have some gold? I'd like to make a little statue.
yeah, yeah. To honor me.
Yeah, because I'd like to wear that on Sundays as I'm walking
Yeah,
around town. I'd like to go, hey,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's strange, the stuff that happens, eh?
yeah,
And having many wives, that was just a part of his.
yeah,
He was a wealthy man in his time, and you'd have many wives.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, my friend. Thank you for this three-part series on the life of Gideon and just the ups and downs. They were fascinating to go through. Um, Folks, so I hope you've enjoyed Larry's insights to this part of Judges. Like he said, he gave a little foreshadowing of what we're going to see in chapter 9, that we'll see Abimelech not be treated maybe as well as Gideon was, and kind of go from there. All right, but until next time, I was Steve, he was Larry, and this was the Apoco-Larry podcast.